Welcome, Magic Landlubbers. It looks like we're going to go ahead and take the plunge here and jump into a mono blue deck for a commander that just recently came out in Modern Horizons 2. For a long time, Merfolk Tribal was really kind of an iffy thing, especially in a mono color like blue. So I decided with the new commander, I would go ahead and create a mono blue Merfolk deck and see how we can do with it. So this is going to be the commander. It's Svyelun of Sea and Sky. Svyelun of Sea and Sky has indestructible as long as you control at least 2 other merfolk. When Svyelun attacks, you draw a card. Other merfolk you control have Ward 1. Now, Ward 1 basically means that if they want to target it, they would pay 1, obviously, to target it or do something to it. So it helps your merfolk, gives them a little protection, because for a long time there wasn't a lot of merfolk tribal stuff going on. There was in blue and green. I think if you combine the two, you can get a lot out of that. But with this deck, since I was going mono blue, I was going to go ahead and, with this commander, it's good that she has some protection on some of those merfolk. So, and of course, whenever she attacks, you can draw a card. So you want to try to get her to be unblockable or do stuff with her. And she only costs 3, so you can get her out on turn 3. That's one thing I like, is that she's out, she's useful, she's got her benefits going on right at turn 3. So let's go ahead and plunge into this deck. Let's dive in and see what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and move these guys. Looks like they decided to climb onto the deck here. So let's go ahead and see what we've got going on here. Now, obviously, the whole idea with this deck is ultimately to, kind of stall out your opponents and get them to sleep with the fishes. I kind of designed a theme to stall people out a little bit. This deck is designed to be fairly affordable, so it's not very expensive to make this deck when you see the cards in here. There are some that have a certain cost attached to them, but may be easy to pull from another deck you may already own. If you wanted to build this type of deck, the cost shouldn't be that high. If you already own like half of these cards, it's not too bad. So let's go ahead and hit the 99 and see what we've got, and see what floats up, okay? All right, first one we got is Merfolk Sovereign. Other merfolk creatures you control get +1/+1. You can tap it to make a target merfolk creature unblockable this turn. So obviously your commander, if you want to tap this, you can go ahead and get your commander in and get that card draw off the commander. So definitely a good little card to have. Again, it's only a 3 cost, so easy to get out. Next we're going to go ahead and we've got this one. We've got Talran, Sky Summoner. Now, this guy used to be kind of rare, and it was hard to get to, but they just kept reprinting him over time. Well, he's not so rare anymore. He's probably a bulk rare, but you know what? It's a good card to have in here. There are a good amount of instants and sorceries in here, so every time you do that, you can get a creature with flying, because typically merfolk don't usually fly, but this does give you some flying action in the air to help you kind of protect your guys. Next, we're going to jump into this Tidal Barracuda. This is not a merfolk, but I threw it in because I thought it might be really useful to be able to get some sorceries out. And one thing you got to think about this card is that it builds up more shenanigans for your opponents, and it kind of dissuades them from doing things on your turn. Obviously, they can't counter your stuff, but they can do things on each other's turn. And again, what you're doing here is you're kind of running a little bit of a game or a politics on somebody, in that on the other players, it's easier for them to do things to each other, so they're defeating each other quicker and whittling down each other's life totals, or changing their board states and things, but they can't do anything to you on your turn. So it does speed up the entire table, but it benefits you in the long run. So I like the idea behind this card. That's why I threw it in. Now, it is a creature and can be destroyed, so someone may want to get rid of this at some point, but it does have an interesting little component that goes to it. And it's not an expensive card, so I figured I'd throw it in. We got True Name Nemesis. He basically is unblockable and or protected against any specific player. So if you have a really grabby player that's stealing creatures or doing something, he can't really get onto this one. He's always been a good card. Commander, he has his merits and benefits. I think this card could be like one of the 99, maybe in a like a Voltron build, because it'll guarantee get through against one specific player. So kind of cool to have in a deck like this. And of course, he's on theme. He's on Tribal Merfolk. So next we got Master of the Pearl Trident. Other Merfolk creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Island Walk. Great card to throw in this deck, obviously. So, you know, if there's anybody playing islands at the table, well, all your guys are now unblockable. So, the commander, of course, if it draws cards, you're going to get card draw just off your commander alone. Now, this one, I figured this would be a perfect ad for here. Spells your opponent's cast to target a Merfolk you control cost 2 more to cast. Abilities your opponents activate that target a Merfolk you control costs 2 more to activate. So, and again, it gives these guys a little more protection that even buffs even more that ward 1, and now it's like almost like a ward 3 in a way. So you can kind of see that's kind of a good buff to have on these guys to make them kind of give them a certain amount of permanency out on the battlefield. Next, we're going to go ahead and hit up Silvergill Adept. As an additional cost to cast Silvergill Adept, reveal a Merfolk card from your hand or pay 3. When it enters the battlefield, you can draw a card. So it gives you some card draw. It's not a really powerhouse or anything, but you'll see where we can go with this and some of these other cards in the deck. So next creature we have this Kraken. It is a lieutenant, so what I like about this, as long as you control your commander, it does get +2/+2, and has whenever Storm Surge Kraken becomes blocked, you may draw 2 cards. So he's going to be a 7/7. He's going to be annoying to be out there, so people may just go ahead and block him so they don't take the 7 damage, in which case you'll get 2 cards off him. So I thought that was a neat little ad to have in the deck. He's got lieutenant, so... next we got is Thassa, God of the Sea. Very on theme, of course. She's the Merfolk god. She's indestructible as long as your devotion to blue is less than 5. She isn't a creature. More than likely she's going to be a creature because it's a mono blue deck, so everything you're playing is going to put, you know, a blue mana symbol on the field. So sooner or later, you know, even just playing her herself, she may very well come in as a creature as long as you have 4 other mana symbols that are blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can scry 1. You can. What I really like is that you can go ahead and pay the 2 to get your creature to be unblockable this turn. So again, I want to do that to the commander, of course, to draw a card, or maybe something else. You'll see. Next card, we got a Spark Double. The idea behind this is that it takes the legendary. Hold on a second here. So. It enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. If it's a creature, it enters with an additional loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker, and it isn't legendary. So I can copy my commander and get 2 Svyelun's. Because with that, I mean, I could swing in for 2 card draws, or I can also give my Merfolk more buffs, and, you know, again, give him more permanency on the field. So I like Spark Double as a good ad for this, to copy something out there. Lord of Atlantis, he's kind of like the Merfolk of the Pearl Trident card, this guy here. Very similar, with a slight variation. I'll show you the difference in case you were curious. You know, what is it? This guy has been around forever. I mean, I want to say he goes... what do you think? Maybe like, I think he comes from Revised, maybe, or even going for, maybe to the Alpha. Goes back quite a ways, so... It gives your Merfolk Island Walk, and they get +1/+1, all Merfolk. The only difference is Master of the Pearl Trident there. It says other Merfolk. So, other versus this guy. I thought they were the same for a second until I looked at the card and said, oh, okay, so he doesn't buff himself. Next one we got is Stony Brook Banneret. It gives your Merfolk a coupon base. It's just a coupon card. It makes them cheaper to play. Next one we got is Master of Waves. He's got protection from red. Elemental creatures you control get +1/+1. When Master of Waves enters the battlefield, put a number of 1/0 blue elemental creature tokens on the battlefield equal to your devotion to blue. So it's a mono blue deck. You're going to have a lot of these little tokens come out. And again, they'll come in as a 2/1 because of the buff there. You know, it's not really an elemental deck, but it was neat to have extra guys pop out. And, you know, there's not a lot of Merfolk in this deck. There's a lot of shenanigans and things that do things and make things. So you'll see what happens. So this is like a version 1 of this. I may go ahead and make a more expensive version. Give us a version 2, a little more expensive, and then give you, you know, an idea of some different synergies with that. Now, I love this card, Empress Galena. You can gain control of target legend or legendary permanent. Now, read this really carefully. You pay 2 blue. I'm sure you're going to get it. You basically, it doesn't say you return it at the end of turn. It says this effect doesn't end at the end of turn. You take someone's commander. You're just basically, any commanders in the field, you're just going to be, whoop, there's my commander for 2. Same thing, get the next one and the next one. So you can kind of see where this is going. You know, it's a really great card. I can imagine, I can almost interchange this deck with this commander. And I do believe she was errated to be a Merfolk. So I think that's a good card to have in this deck. Really good one. Next we've got is Lull Mage Mentor. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may put a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token into the battlefield. You can tap 7 untapped Merfolk you control to counter target spell. Super good. Next we're going to have is Seafloor Oracle. Whenever a Merfolk you control deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. Again, with that stuff that makes them unblockable, that definitely gives you some card advantage. Now this guy's really cool. When you play him, if you play his kicker, you can go ahead and grab someone's soul ring if you want. You want to kicker for 1. Gain control of target artifact and convert a mana cost extra less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to the skydiver. So, you know, you need some mana on turn 2 or turn 3 if you don't want to, you know, put your commander out. Maybe you want to play this guy to get yourself some RAM because you're pulling away someone's artifact. Or maybe they've got something else better out there. You want to grab it. Next we're going to have is Thada Adel Acquisitor. She has Island Walk, like a lot of these do. When Thada Adel Acquisitor deals combat damage to a player, search that player's library for an artifact card and exile it. Then that player shuffles his or her library until end of turn. You may play that card. So really super good. Another way to get yourself a free soul ring. I really like this because, yeah, you see where I'm going with that. Free soul rings and all kinds of free goodies. All right, next one we got is going to be Harbinger of Tides. You may cast Harbinger of Tides as though it had flash if you pay 2 more. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target tapped creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So it bounces a creature for you. He's only 2. Or maybe, yeah, I guess that's a guy. So it's only 2. So, I mean, it's cheap. It's easy to get something bounced. Not bad. Now, we're going to dive into some of these other things. I only have 1 little Planeswalker here. It's more of just a defense card. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. Now, one of the benefits of this deck, as you're going to see, is that there's a lot of shenanigans-related stuff that you're going to kind of be over here not doing a whole lot, playing, but you are. At the same time, you can win with this deck, but it's almost like it's a sleeper. It just comes out of nowhere, and people are like, oh, wow, I can't do anything, and oh my goodness, yeah. You're going to see why. So now that we jump into these, you can kind of see where we're going. This one's a commander lockdown, so even if there's a board wipe and somebody board wipes, the commander can never come back if it's imprisoned inside of a land. They can tap for the colorless, but that particular card is no longer in play. It doesn't go to the graveyard. It doesn't go into exile. It just turns into a land, so it's gone. They're never going to get their commander back unless they can destroy the enchantment. So, very interesting card to play. Back to basics. Oh my goodness. You know, this could be very well a game winner with this. Because, I mean, how many Commander 4-player pods have you played where how many people are playing non-basic lands? Like, everybody? Pretty much. So this right here will turn them all into, they don't untap. You know, this deck doesn't have very many non-basics. There's a few. But in general, the idea is that you want to, if you can get this out, yeah, you're going to be able to go ahead and pretty much own the battlefield at that point, because most lands that people put in their decks these days are, it's either a multicolored deck or they're running, you know, like a lot of non-basics and fetch lands and whatnot. Whenever a permanent deals damage to you, return it to its owner's hand. So if somebody tries to attack you, it's going to bounce it back to their hand, and they have to recast it, which costs them more mana, and it takes up a lot of time. So with a card like this out, you're not going to be a target immediately. You're just going to be there, and you're going to be doing things, and eventually you're going to slowly kind of drag them down into the depths, into Davy Jones' locker, and just sort of like, and drown them out until people can't really play. It's kind of the theme of the deck. It's actually very effective. I actually drew up some hands on this, and I'll show you when I'm going to do an after video of kind of some hands and see how it kind of plays out turn by turn and see what you can do with it. Counterbalance is only cost 2. I thought that was a really good deal. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, counter that spell if it has the same converted mana cost as the revealed card. So as it goes around the table, sooner or later you might just counter someone's spell and, you know, trigger off something else too. So very useful little card for only 2 mana. Next we got is this one. It's really, again, another card to just slow people down. You can kind of see where this is going. Artifacts, creatures, and lands your opponents control come into play tapped. So when they play a land, it's tapped, or yeah, so it's not as bad as like a Winter Orb, but it's not far from it. It's pretty annoying, but it's a good card for you because it doesn't affect you. Ristic Study, I'm not going to say what Ristic Study does. I think anybody that plays Commander probably has at least one copy of that floating around somewhere. Obviously for card draw. Mind Stylation, whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it is a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So again, even though there's not a lot of Merfolk in here, there are other cards that will get you stuff on your battlefield. So I kind of balanced that out. I was like, well, I don't have a lot of blue Merfolk that are really heavy hitters, you know, things that can just, you know, own the battlefield just by the presence of that creature. But a lot of these spells can get you things you need for your battlefield to run and do things. This is basically just defense. They have to pay 2 to attack you, so really useful little card propaganda. Omniscience. Since it is mono blue, I figure sooner or later you're going to get the 10 mana ramped up. You may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. So draw cards, put them out. Draw cards, put them out. It's that simple. Super easy. Mirror to Commerce. Merfolk, Tribal Enchantment until end of turn. Untap. At end of turn, so you untap all your Merfolk. So they're always untapped for you if you have that out. As for Told. So eventually what you do with this is you start playing stuff for free. So turn 1, you can kind of see where this is going. You put a count, you know, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter. So turn, you put it out. The next turn, you put a 1 on it. If you want to play a Soul Ring, it's free or any 1-cost thing. But as this continues, you're going to see how that really can super help you. You know, if it's still on the battlefield, it's a good card for mid to late game. As Kindred Discovery enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Obviously, Merfolk. Whenever a creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, you can draw a card. So you again get more options for card draw there. We've got Cyclonic Rift. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. We know what Cyclonic does. I mean, you can overload it and just boot everybody's permanents off the field and just swing in with all your stuff and then maybe kill someone in one turn. Now we're going to jump into some of these instants. A lot of cool things in here, just different ways to counter and card draw and whatnot. So think twice. It costs 2 mana. You can draw a card and flashback it for 2. So I like the fact that you can do it twice. I thought that was really cool. Next we got is Snap. Return target creature to owner's hand. Untap up to 2 lands. Return target creature to owner's hand. Untap up to 2 lands. So basically it's a free bounce. You bounce on something that doesn't need to be on the battlefield. Slow somebody down. And it only costs free, basically, because you're untapping the lands. Mystic Confluence, you can do it more than once. So you can choose 3 things. You can counter target spell, return a creature to its owner's hand, and draw a card. Or you can do 3 card draws, whatever you want to do with that. So it gives you more stuff to do. I like the fact that there's 3 different options on the creature. Next we got is Boomerang. Return target permanent to owner's hand. You know what that does. Again, punts it off the field, puts it back in their hand. They got to spend mana to put it out. If it's a creature and comes in summoning sick, then they got to wait till next turn to use it. So definitely booting things back to people's hands, especially creatures, is super helpful. You can counter target spell. It's just a counter spell. Send it to their graveyard. This one, I'm probably going to take it out and replace it with something, but it's cheap. It was only 1. I could play it on turn 1 if I wanted to, but I could say target player draws the card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, or target creature an opponent controls phases out, or target creature gains flying until end of turn. So it's kind of weak, but it's only 1 mana, so again, I was going after like a little bit more speed with this one since the Merfolk weren't expensive, and throw in a few options. Mystical Tutor, I think you know what it does. It's a tutor. It just goes gets instants or sorceries. Mana Source isn't really used very often. I don't think that is a thing anymore. That was something from a long time ago. I'm going to go with like 1994, 95, 96, that far back. It's just a way to get mana a different way. I think, gosh, what card is that? I want to say Dark Ritual might be a mana source, if I remember correctly. I think. I don't know. Next one we got is counter target spell unless its caster pays an additional 3. It's just manually old stuff. We're going to have Dissipate. Counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Next we're going to have is Narset's Reversal. Now this can become very useful. Somebody's casting a win condition kind of thing. Instant or sorcery. Let's say they play an expropriate. Well, you can bounce it back and do it yourself. So whatever they're trying to do is a win con or something strange with a sorcery. Well, you can go ahead and use this card and bounce it. So I think that's really helpful. Remand, counter target spell. If you do, return that spell to its owner's hand and you can draw a card. Let's jump into a few of these sorceries here. Nothing too crazy, but this one, it could... You know, it's funny. A lot of commander games I've played is people will sometimes just go ahead and they're kind of stingy about their permanents and they don't want to lose them. So what happens is that they will go ahead and vote for money. And then you just take extra turns. And you know, a lot of times when you take the extra turns, you can just win the game. Depends on how you're playing and what kind of group you have. Mass Diminish until next turn. Creatures target player controls have base power, toughness 1/1. And you can flash it back. So I like the fact that you can bring it out another time later on and do the same thing. So good way to kind of run some shenanigans on things. Draw a card for each tapped creature target opponent control. So again, if there's somebody that's playing a lot of that, you can drop a whole handful of cards if you want to go ahead and play this. Again, a lot of these cards are not expensive. The idea behind this deck was to build an affordable one that, you know, people could enjoy playing and maybe even win the game. I've actually drew up some hands and kind of went through it and was able to, you know, cycle into a lot of cards really quick that I could see how that would be really, you know, helpful in a game of Commander. Choose a creature type. Draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. So obviously you're going to choose Merfolk. You know, it drives me nuts with Wizards, you know. This card is old, but it's pringly. You know, it's so hard to get them straight. I almost think you have to, like, sit under a book forever and hopefully it gets straight. It drives me nuts. We got Ward of Bones. Each opponent who controls more creatures than you can't play creature cards. The same is true for artifacts, enchantments, or lands. So if you're behind and you play this, it's a good way to stall them out until you can be caught up with whatever you're doing. Next we're going to have is Bloodthirsty Blade. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and is goaded. So the idea behind this card, you want to drop this on somebody else's commander and make the commander attack somebody and deal commander damage to the opponents, but not you. So you're, again, causing shenanigans for your opponents, but it ignores you the whole time. So it acts as kind of like an interesting way to use like a political card. So you can force somebody to use their commander and put this on there and then block and then get their commander killed. Or once the equipment is, the creature's dead, it detaches and then you can attach this equipment to a different commander or a different card. And, you know, you can use this as an interesting little political piece in the game until somebody blows it up, of course, if they get rid of it. Let's go ahead and hit some of these artifacts. Cage Sun enters the battlefield. Choose a color. It's going to be blue, obviously, or islands. Creatures you control the chosen color get +1/+1. Merfolk. Whenever a land's ability causes you to add 1 mana of the chosen color, add 1 additional mana of that color. So Cage Sun is really good for that kind of thing. Next we have is Biden of Thassa. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. So again, it's going to give you more card draw in a deck like this. Got a coupon card here. Sapphire Medallion. Your spells cost 1 less to play if they're blue. This one, again, is to kind of keep people off you. No more than 2 creatures can attack you each combat. It's 3 costs. Pretty cheap to get out. It keeps you kind of almost sort of, again, this is the kind of deck I design to be effective, but I wouldn't say it's like a long game deck. Because I did pull up when I got to turn 10 on this on some hand pulls, it seemed like we could go off, in different ways. Now, I'll have to show you that in different video here. But stuff like that keeps people from attacking you, and it makes people kind of focus on somebody else because you're just not a big threat. You're just shelling yourself in there, and all of a sudden you pop off and you start doing things. So it's really kind of cool. As Vanquisher's banner enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, you draw a card. And more card draw to get your hand full. Let's go ahead and jump into this one. We've got God-Pharaoh's statue, a big favorite of mine. Again, it's taxing your opponent's ability to cast spells quickly, so it gives you more time to build up board state. You're a low threat thing unless somebody really doesn't like this thing, then they're going to have to destroy it, and takes effort and time away from other things. Next card we have is going to be Herald's Horn. As it enters, you choose a creature type, of course, Merfolk. Those spells are one less to cast. At the beginning of the upkeep, you look at the top card of your library. If it is a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. So it gets you a little speed on the top of your deck. Now we're just there's not a lot of lands and rocks in here because it is a monocolor deck. So mostly islands will be able to run this. You're pretty much trying to drown your opponents, slow them down, and just sink them down into the depths. So the idea here is next we've got Nyx Lotus. You tap it, add a mana equal to the color of devotion of that color, equal to the devotion of that color. So it's mono blue. You have 4 things out, or 4 mana symbols. You're going to get 4 mana off of this thing. Super good card in a mono color deck for sure. Thought Vessel. There's a lot of card draw in here, so I'm assuming having infinite hand size is helpful. Soul Ring, I'm not going to get into that. Hedron Archive, if you don't know what it does, you can sack it to draw 2 cards. It's basically a mana rock with, it's 2 on it. So, way better than a Sisay's Ring because it's got an extra ability on it. It's useful. We got Wayfarer's Bauble. Look into that. You sack it, you get a basic land. Just a little bit of ramp. And, of course, the Thrawn Dynamo. All right. Now, the non-basics, I kept it small because, I have back to basics in there. So I was like, I got to be careful with that. I don't want to put too many in there. So I got Hall of the Storm Giants. You can see what it does. I can go ahead and turn it into a creature, okay, or do something to it. So it's very useful. Myriad Landscape. You just crack it and go get 2 islands. That's the idea. Pass the Ancestry. It gives your command. You can see what it does. Allows you to scry 1. Based on your commander's color identity. Okay. Reliquary Tower, of course, again, no maximum hand size. A lot of card draw in here. I wanted to make sure I had an unlimited hand possible. And then, of course, it's just a Forge of Heroes. Nothing too crazy here. Gives you a +1/+1 counter if it's a creature and a loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker. So that wraps it up, guys. Again, this is a cheaper build. I found this to be a very affordable deck to come up with and effective. So it does some interesting things. It allows you to play Commander. It will give more table time for you and your crew friends to be able to play. But it also has some interesting ways to win and some synergy with Merfolk. I will be making a more advanced version of this deck here pretty soon. This one's just to kind of get it started and see if mono blue Merfolk is a doable thing. And again, there's our commander, Svyelun, the Sea and Sky. I love this card, just the full art, this and the foil. For some reason, the blue foil cards look really, really pretty if they do it right. But you can see what it does, and this is the deck we built around it. So, guys, thanks for watching my videos. Please like and subscribe, and if you have any friends that are into Magic, or you're just starting out new, or you've been a player for a long time, by all means, recommend this to your friends, or just, leave me some comments. Say, hey, Ivy, why don't you do this or do that? I had a guy that told me a lot of cool things to do with my Traxos deck. He did a wonderful job kind of explaining all that. So, by all means, guys, I love making these videos for you guys. I'm going to be making some more. I've got a Planeswalkers Super Friends 3 deck coming up real soon. But I hope until next time, we'll go ahead and sail the 7 seas together, and we'll go ahead and explore all kinds of new decks and Magic and all kinds of fun stuff. Okay? All right, it was wonderful doing this, and I will see you soon. Bye.